Invited Floyd to come up here to speak. I've never heard us talk, but probably about 30 or 40 people approached me about his lead, and said that he would be a wonderful speaker for the conference, and so we made arrangements, and we met at I met him one other time up at another meeting, and just his body language and his personality just confirmed the fact that he was a good speaker for up here. And then we met him at Cracker Barrel for breakfast, and we had a real nice breakfast. And I'm really want to hear his story, so I'm going to give you Floyd from Pittsburgh. Floyd.
My name's Floyd. I'm an alcoholic. And I'm from Canonsburg, that's south of Pittsburgh. Perry Como territory. That's where Perry Como and a few other celebrities are from. I say I'm an alcoholic, and I didn't know what that I didn't know what that was. When they mentioned AA, I heard it over the years, AA. I thought it was the Automobile Association. I didn't know what that had anything to do with drunks. You know, it really makes me feel comfortable. I look out over you. You don't look like a bunch of alcoholics or Al-Anons, because you got your own look too. You know. I just want to get right to the miracle, and that's what I call this, is a miracle. I was born in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, and I was one of 10 kids. There were 7 boys, 3 girls. Both parents are alcoholics. Both of them, hardcores. I never remember my mother drawing a sober breath in her life. She never wore a stitch of clothes, never cooked a meal, never cleaned the house. My mother would wake up, sit up, and drink up, in that order, every day, as long as I can remember. Dad would go to work and leave a bottle of Four Roses whiskey on the chair next to the bed with $2 underneath it every morning. I wonder why he did that. But I found out years later that she would get up and sit on the edge of bed and turn that bottle up, take that $2, stick it in here, give us our orders. The girls were to clean the house. The boys had odd jobs to do around the house. We lived in the ghetto area of our community, the other side of the tracks, and it was dirty and poor, and we didn't have a lot because, you know, we had 10 kids, and then supporting 2 habits, there was nothing that, we ate a lot of oatmeal. We go to school with butter sandwich with sprinkled with sugar. That was a big thing, and that's what we took to lunch for school. I remember one time my sister had a pair of these black patent leather shoes that had a little strap that went over them. Well, I didn't have no shoes. And so I cut that strap off, and I put them on, and I tried to pass them off as loafers. I was in 3 fights that day because it didn't fly. It just didn't fly. So needless to say, I would come home. My father was a violent drunk. He'd get drunk, and then how he ever got up at 7 o'clock in the morning, went out that door to work, I'll never know. But he did it every morning. Either it was because he knew he needed to get his habits supplied, or because of us kids. I didn't think he cared about us. But he must have cared somewhat, because he was out that door every morning at 7 o'clock working, 6 days a week. How he did that, I don't know, because he came in 2 o'clock in the morning drunk, raging bull. I never understood that, how he could do that. Well, I spent a lot of time running the streets, because I didn't want to be at home. I didn't like it there. So I ran out in the streets with guys who were like me, smoking cigarettes, drinking wine. We used to get the local drunk to buy us a bottle of wine, go down by the ball field and drink it and get funny. And cops would go to my father and say, "You better do something about that boy. He's going to get himself." He says, "He'll outgrow it. Leave him alone." Pop didn't care. I spent a lot of time away from home. I wouldn't come home, and I'm 12, 13 years old. I wouldn't come home until 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm not running the streets with these other guys, and we're getting in trouble, and we're doing this, and we go into the local 5 and 10 or to the drugstore and reach over the glass thing and get cigarettes and stealing them and stealing comic books, marble, you know. stuff like that, anything. And we got a reputation. Mothers would tell their boys, don't run with them Ridley boys, they're a bad crew. It wasn't my brothers and sisters, they all were cool. It was me. My brothers and sisters were afraid of my father, that's why they never got out of hand. I didn't care. Even then, I didn't care. My dad would beat me because he'd be beating on Mom, and I'd get between them, and he'd start whipping on me. But my thinking was, he's not hitting her no more. And that's the way I looked at it. And so I started getting in a lot of trouble. When I was 14 years old, I robbed the guy's house. And I got caught, and I went to court, and I got put on probation. But they took me out of my father and mother's custody, and they put me with my sister, who was married and had 6 kids of her own. But she lived up in the Pocono Mountains. I mean, out of town. And all I had to get in trouble up there with was bears, raccoons, and squirrels. there was no place to run up there. So for the next 2 years, I was in her custody, and I went to school. I didn't do nothing. I just sat there. I wouldn't do the work. I kept failing. They kept me back. When my brother caught up to me in 7th grade, it was time for me to leave. I told my sister, and at that time, if you were 16 years old, I'm 16 years old in the 7th grade. That's a trip. My sister signed me out because she needed help with those 6 kids anyway and the place up where I lived. So I left school because my younger brother, caught up to me, and that was embarrassing right there. So I left. And I stayed okay for 2 years when I was with her. And then after the probation was up, I went back to town, and I kept doing what I always did, getting in trouble. Well, I got caught again for another robbery charge. I had light fingers, I guess, or something. But I always needed money in my pocket to impress you. I thought I could buy my friends that way. That's why I always had to have money. I got caught this time, and the judge says, you do one of 2 things, Floyd. You either go in the military or you're going to jail. Well, I signed a dotted line for the Marine Corps, and I went there, and I was a good Marine. I did good while I was there. I went in 1962, and the Vietnam War was starting to escalate. A lot of boys were starting to go there now. I figured that's my next stop was Vietnam. And I had a drinking habit I had developed already, running with those street guys. And I didn't even know it. I was alcoholic already because when I didn't have it, I went looking for it all the time. I went looking for it. I needed it more or less. I didn't know I needed it. I just know I wanted it. So I come home on furlough from the service, and the government, the military was only giving me $76 a month. I can't drink on $76 a month. That's one night. You know, I'm just being the big shot I am. I got to blow that money, and I couldn't support my habit on $76 a month as an E1. But I come home on furlough one weekend, and I'm talking to my buddies in the bar, guys I grew up with, and they're on a robbing rampage. They're going around robbing places, and they always had a pocket full of money. So what I became was a weekend robber. I get furloughed from the Marine Corps, I come home and go with these guys and rob places. And they go back to the base on Sunday night, 10 o'clock. Had a pocket full of money. I was the cock of the walk. Man, I had a pocket full of money. Big shot. Well, you can't do that behavior very long without getting caught. And the cops got me, threw me in jail. Well, it wasn't a couple of days later. Here come the Shore Patrol. I figured, well, they'll get me out of this. No. They had hand-delivered my discharge to me. He says, the Marine Corps has no further use of your services. And handed my discharge. Well, I had 15 counts of robbery in 3 states. I lived on the border of New York and Pennsylvania. You went 6 miles north, you were in New York State. You went a mile east, you was in Jersey. The Delaware River snaked through there, and that's what separated the 3 states. Well, I was robbing the states I didn't even know I was in. I didn't know I was in Jersey. The money was the same. So I go, New York wanted first shot at me, so I go to court in New York, and because of my bad juvenile record, they gave me 6 years in Western Penitentiary in Pittsburgh. They did not play with me. So you do 6 years, you don't get parole. And I had detainees from New Jersey and New York. They wanted my butt next. I did the whole 6 years. Well, here I am now. Get a drift of this. I'm 19 years old now. I'm going to the Western Penitentiary in Pittsburgh. Bad place. And I'm cute. Get my drift? I'm cute. 19-year-old boys in the penitentiary get a problem. And I knew this going in. I said, they're going to try to do something to me, and I'm going to kill somebody, and this is where I die. Because I'm going to die here, because they ain't going to be doing that to me. So they put me in the prison van to take me to the Western, and I heard them guys talking that Kennedy just got shot in Dallas, Texas. It was November 22nd, 1963, was when I got shipped to the joint. I went there, and they put you 30 days in quarantine before they throw you to the dogs out in population. I'm in that. The thing that saved my life, there were two guys doing time at the Western at the time I knew from the streets, and they were guerrillas. Saved my life. They passed word down to quarantine, tell Floyd when he comes out in population, he had no problem. He'll run with us. And I did. I had no problem. Nobody messed with these guys. What I learned to do was I learned to make Raisin Jack, and I was taking the roll-on deodorant. We'd squeeze that out, and it was alcohol, and we were sniffing thinner through a rag, paint thinner, get you high, anything to get loaded, because I didn't like where I was. Who would? And I didn't like what I had became, and I didn't like what I saw when I looked in the mirror. So I tried to alter that. And we take chemicals into our system. I don't care if you shoot it, drink it, pop it, take it as a suppository. If you're taking that stuff in your system to change who you are, that's addiction. I was strung out and didn't even know it. I stayed loaded the whole 6 years. But I did finish high school. Woo, got a GED. And I was what they call a stand-up con. I was all right. Well, I think, 6 years is up in 1969. I go walk out of it. They're giving me a suit. And I think, I'm forgetting. This duty dangers on me. I walk out the front gate, and there stands New Jersey. Hello. I said, oh, God, I forgot about you guys. 2 U.S. Marshals. They take me down to Jersey, try me, give me 7.5 to 15 years. Right off the bat. 7.5, 15 years in Trenton. I go, oh, my God. My knees buckled. I says, I can't do no more time. I just finished doing 6. But the judge of the Western wrote that judge a letter, the warden, and said that he recommended leniency because I wasn't a bad guy. I could have told him that. So he suspended the sentence, and he says, on the grounds you'll never step foot in the state of New Jersey again. I said, Your Honor, I won't fly over your state. And I meant it. I won't fly over your state. I left, and New York picked me up. Now, they made a deal with me. New York said, well, we get you for 5 counts. If you make restitution, we'll drop the charges. We won't prosecute you. Well, I had all this money that I had robbed. I had stashed it in the Chase Manhattan Bank in New York City. I had that money sitting there. It was a lot of money. I said, you mean if I give you the money back, I don't have to do no more time? He said, that's it. I gave him the key. He said, there's the key to the safe spot. And I never did no more time. Now, here I am, had 15 counts, 3 states, and I did 6 years. I'm a pretty lucky man. I should still be in there. But God in his mercy even then had mercy on this drunk. Here I am, 26 years old, and I got a suit that the joint gave me and $40 in my pocket. And I don't know nothing. And so what am I going to do? My older brother went to the Naval Academy, graduated, was a naval pilot for a while. His eyes went bad. They grounded him. He got out. He went to law school. All my other brothers and sisters turned out well. All the girls married professional men. I got 2 brothers who became top chefs. The other one's a hospital administrator. And then there was Floyd, this wild renegade, this crazy man. You know, it just went, something happened there. That night my dad and mom made love or something. Something happened. You know, something went way haywire. Must have been Halloween night or something. I don't know. But I know I was a basket case, and I didn't know it. But I knew my brother, Art, he liked me. You know, I was in lockup. He'd write me a letter now and then. Tell me what I was doing. Send me a few bucks for cigarettes. So I go back home. And home's the last place I should be because they remember me. They don't want no parts of this guy. And my brother knew this. Now, he's starting a law firm in this town. I go there. And I says, Artie, I need to get a break in. I need to start. I don't know what to do. He said, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll help you get started. He gave me $1,000 and told me to find a life, but not here. Go someplace else. You know, we didn't want you here. So I left, and I'm only 86 miles from New York City, so I go into New York City thinking, well, I'll make my fortune here. Here I am, 26 years old. I got one suit, and I got $1,000 and 40. 1,040, the 40 bucks I got. And I went to New York because I'm going to make a killing now. I'm going to be a wheeler and dealer. I go there, and in a couple of months, that 1,000 was gone, and I'm laying homeless on the streets of New York, and I don't know which way to go. So, and I found the Bowery, Skid Row. I stood in the corner of Bowery and Houston Street, and I looked down both sides of the street, and I saw the derelicts laying in the gutter, dying, women too. And I said, this is where I belong. My self-worth was underneath a rock somewhere. I fell in with these brothers and sisters, and I thought, I need somebody to teach me. So I got a mentor, a teacher, Panhandle Pete. 40 years he's been on the road, and he became my mentor, my guru. And I sat under his teaching for the next 2 years laying on Skid Row in New York City. He taught me every conceivable way there was to survive in that lifestyle, and I learned it well. And people were dying around me every day, and the meat wagon come through and throw the bodies in the trucks, and they take them to the morgue, and when they get 6 bodies, they put them in a cardboard coffin, and they take 6 of them at a time out to Long Island, and they put one on top of the other, and they bury them. It was called Potter's Field, and they buried them. No marker, no nothing, and that was the end of that, because they didn't have nobody. Now, I'm sitting down there drinking my La Bohemia white port. It was chemical. It wasn't even fruit of the vine. It was chemical. You shake that in the sunlight, man, you see the little things floating in there. But I'm drinking this stuff, and it's doing for me what all the iced tea in the world can't. It makes me think I'm okay. And I'm thinking, I don't want to go to Potter's Field. I got to get out of here. So I go to my mentor, and he says, you're ready to go forth, Floyd. So he gave me my diploma. I graduated with honors. And I took off. For the next 35 years, I became, a hobo. I rode the rails. I learned how to do that. And I traveled coast to coast, down into Mexico, up through Canada. The only thing I knew how to do was how to ride a freight train, how to start a hobo camp, and how to live by my wits. And I did that for 35 years. I didn't care about nothing, about where I was going to get my next drink and a cigarette. And I got famous in the hobo circle because I had good camps. People would be in Shreveport, Louisiana, and say, I'm going Texas way. What do we got going there? I said, Floyd's got a camp in Amarillo. Okay, good. Because I made good beans. I always had a pot of stew going. And when I stopped at my camp, a tramp knew he could get a cigarette, a drink, and a bowl of beans. He knew that. And I started a lot of camps across the nation, all over this country. And my camps became famous. Floyd's got a camp in Shreveport. Let's go down there and have some good beans. And they'd take a freight down there and come for dinner. We'd sit around, we'd hobo camp and drink wine and eat beans, smoke cigarettes, and talk trash. Like, it don't get no better than this. We didn't know how sick we were. Here we are, this stuff is killing us, and we didn't know it. We did not know it. We had no idea. Well, listen, you can't drink like that and live like that without your body telling you something. My body started shutting down. I'm in Colorado, and I'm in a park drinking with a bunch of other winos, and I'm starting to get sick, and I'm throwing up blood. So I get nervous, and they say, we know a place up north that takes care of guys like us. It was called the Detox. I never heard of these places. And these days, they were just starting to have them. Detoxes, treatment centers, things of this nature. So I said, let's go. So we go on up there. You know what they did? They took me into this detox center, gave me a shower. I take a bath once a month if I needed it or not. At that time, I was like an aristocrat. I had a certain air about me. Now, I smelled funny. You know, I didn't take baths, and I was dirty, and I had a beard down to my belt buckle and long hair and a bandana. You wouldn't have took me to a worm wrestle. It looked bad, and I looked the part of a nasty old drunk. But you know what? They treated me with kindness. They put me in a bed. They gave me medicine so I wouldn't shake because I had it bad now. When I detox, I had hallucinate, I had seizure. And so they gave me medicine so that wouldn't happen to me. And then you're only there 5 days, and I'm eating 3 square meals a day. I was eating off a plate. You know what I remember about that first detox of mine? I'll tell you what I remember today at 60-some years old. I went in my room that night, the first night I was there. I sat in the bed. I laid down that bed. My body sunk down in that mattress. And my head went back into a soft pillow. That was foreign territory for me. I used to concrete the bush, bridges. That's where my home was. And here they gave me a bed. And I pulled the sheets up, and they smelled good. I said, wow. You know, the thought that went through my head was that I must have did something right along the way to get this. And that might not mean nothing to nobody else. But for this drunk, that little thing meant the world to me at that point. 5 days later, they told me you got to leave, and I'm still sick. And they said, Floyd, and they got a halfway house upstairs. You didn't have to go through treatment. You could go right from the detox right to the halfway house in them days. He said, if you can get a job. And I said, what? They said, a job. I said, yeah, right. Yeah, I'm going to get a job, right? You're going to hire me. Anyway, I don't know how to work. The only thing I did was I'd unload a truck once in a while and get a few dollars for a bottle. You get a job, you can stay up in the halfway house. Well, I needed some more healing time because my body was ripped. So I went in and got a job washing dishes at a greasy spoon. I think I made $1.25 an hour. But it was enough so I could stay upstairs. I stayed upstairs. Now, there was a girl that worked there at night. She checked in all the new people coming in detox, Kathy. Well, see, what happened was when I sobered up, my body woke up. And I looked and I went, wow. See, that part of my life was dead for years. But I woke up and I sobered up and I went, whoa, she's cutie. You know, long hair, pretty. And I started putting my intellectual moves on her, you know. I'm going to tell you how sick this girl was. This girl was working in a recovery setting. This is how sick she was. In 3 months, she married me. I was there for 3 months. Working in that, washing in dishes, and I conned her and I sweet-talked her, and 3 months later, she was going to save Floyd. She was going to take me away from all this. She took me and married me. And took me into her home with a car, and her dad was a Shriner, and he thought she was stark raving mad. He said, you lost your mind. But she didn't know that once I got out of that halfway house and went home with her, I started drinking again. I got a couch to sit on, a coffee table to put my wine on. You know, I'm a big shot now. Well, she put up that for a year because she thought she was really going to save me. She realized a year later that it wasn't going to happen. I was getting worse and worse and worse. And she was pregnant. She said, Floyd, if you don't do something, I'm gone. And I didn't believe her, so I kept drinking, and she was gone. Well, when she was gone, I did what I always did. I packed a ditty bag and jumped the freight train. I'm back to the life I knew. I didn't need this anyway. They don't know who I am. I'm the Ripper, King of the Road, Boom, there I go. 3 years more. I'm out in there on the road, running around the country like crazy, man. And I'm in San Bernardino, laying on Skid Row like I always did. And there's a guy in AA coming down there every day in that alleyway with a pack of cigarettes and a thing of coffee. Try to talk to me about, do you want to get sober? I said, what are you, crazy? Get away from me. Then I started being nice to him because he bought me that pack of cigarettes. I need them cigarettes. So I get a noble thought one day. I'm going to call my wife, my ex-wife, and find out what we had, a boy or a girl, because she was pregnant when I left. This is 3 years later. I call her, collect, of course, and said we had a son. Would you like to see him? And I said, yeah, you can see him. You can come up to Denver. I'll meet you at the airport. I'm thinking, she thinks I'm going to fly. I'm jumping on a freight train, man. And you meet me at the yards. I'm thinking this. So she says, you come out up, you can see your son, as long as you're not drinking. I couldn't stop. So the guy from AA sitting there, he gave me the money to make the phone call, his card. He says, Floyd, you need to go there and heal this relationship with your ex-wife and make some kind of amends to her and your baby. 3 years old now. I said, all right. I says, I'll go down to Salvation Army, get a clean set of clothes, and I'll jump a freight. And you want it? No. I'll buy you a plane ticket. This guy bought me a plane ticket to Denver. This guy from AA gave me a few dollars. He says, let me know how it goes. So I called her, tell her I'm coming. By the time I flight and everything, I get off the plane. Here she's standing with a 3-year-old redheaded boy. What do you say? What do you say? I'm thinking about this. There ain't nothing coming. I don't know what to say. What do I say to her? I'm sorry. Sorry I wasn't there. A bing, a bang, a boom. What do you say? Oh, this slick Floyd didn't have nothing to say. And I stood there and looked at him, and I looked at her, and she put her arms around me and hugged me. And she had the audacity to look at me and say, do you want to try it again? Like she wanted me back. Can you believe that? This girl had to be sick. So what kind of drugs are you shooting? That's what I thought. Well, I said, yeah, we can try this. Well, she took me home with her. I lasted 3 days. It didn't take her long this time. She saw that he didn't change. She says, I'm sorry, Floyd, it ain't going to work. So I left. Packed little bags on freight train, gone. 20 more years I drank up until I got sober. They told me in a hospital out in the Midwest, I was so bad at this time. I weighed 98 pounds. I was dying. They rushed me to a hospital. The doctors came into the emergency room and said, Floyd, you're going to die in probably a month. You'll be dead. You got cirrhosis, you got pancreatitis, you got a growth the size of an orange by your bladder, your kidneys are shot, your lungs are ready to collapse, you're a mess. And you're going to die. Is there anything else, Doc? That was my attitude. I did not care. I didn't care about nothing. Anything else? No. I said, thank you. So I leave and go get a jug. And I'm sitting there, I remember having that bottle in my hand, and what I said to myself, I says, let me figure this out now. Got all that going on with me. Let me figure this out. Oh, yeah, it's all getting clearer now. I know what the problem is. It's you. This ain't me. They're crazy, man. I feel good, man. There ain't nothing wrong with me. Shit, they can't kill me. But then that little twinkling thing in my head told me, if they're right, and I die some night by myself, they're going to put me in Potter's Field. God, I don't want to go there. So I called my brother, the lawyer. Collect. Hi, Art. And I told him what the doctor said and everything, and he says, I'll tell you what I'll do, Floyd. You keep my phone number and address in your wallet. I didn't have a wallet. But I said, all right, I'll keep it in my pocket. He said, when you die and they find the body, they can call me. I'll see that you're buried. And I'll see you get a little stone. I'll do that much for you. Have a good day. And I said, oh, I need some, I thought of coming up to see you. No, where are you? I'll send you some money. Just stay where you're at. So he sent me $200-300, Western Union. Keep me away. He says, I'll bury you. I said, okay, now I'm going to be noble about this, because I'm a nice guy, right? I don't want him to have to ship my body all the way across country, so I moved back to Pennsylvania. So he don't have to, no problem from Pittsburgh to the Pocono ain't that far, so it'll make it easy on him to send the body. That's my thinking. I'm actually thinking like this. So I come to Pittsburgh, and I open up a condo underneath the 10th Street Bridge on the south side. I moved in there, and for the next 3 years, that's where I lived. I lived underneath that bridge, and I would hustle the streets of Carson Street, and I would go down in the morning and help you ladies carry your groceries to your car from Giant Eagle, and they'd give me 50 cents or quarter. By the time the liquor store opened, I had $20. I had it made. I'd go back with a half gallon of Mad Dog. I'd get nose bags from the butcher, and they didn't have butchers anymore, so that went out. That was the ends of the meat that the butcher used to cut. He put them in a bag and saved. We called it a nose bag because it was the nose of the meat. Go in there and give him 35 cents, he'd give you that bag of ends of the meat. And that's my diet. I take that back to the bridge, have my nose bag, a pack of cigarettes, a half gallon of Mad Dog, and it don't get no better. I thought I was in cat heaven. I actually believed it. That's how sick the alcoholic mind was working. Long as I had that drink, I could be anybody I wanted to be, and I could try to convince you I was okay. I started getting real sick. And I says, well, I don't want to die on this bridge. I'm watching the ice go down the river in the middle of the winter. I'm sitting 3 o'clock in the morning, the cops would come under the bridge to check on me to see if I'm still alive. You all right, Floyd? You know, we can help you. No, I'm all right. I'm all right. They'd leave me alone. I didn't cause no trouble. So I think maybe if I move out of Pittsburgh, I need to get out of the big city. So I went to Washington, PA. And I opened up a camp in the woods next to Coca-Cola. There's a wooded area. I needed running water, so there's a brook there. So I moved to camp there because I needed running water, of course, for my apartment. So I had a lean-to, and I had all what I need, my necessities. And then I went hustling in Main Street in Washington. You don't do that like you do in Pittsburgh. They frown upon that kind of behavior in a smaller town. It's like panhandling. Can you imagine me panhandling here? I walked down the street, I say, boy, I'll say it. They had me locked up before I got 2 blocks. But I get to Washington, and the cops keep giving me tickets for public drunk. They don't lock you up. They give me tickets, $65. Oh, look at this. You obeyed us. Says, yeah, you got 10 days. No, you're right. Now I get 4 or 5 of these in a couple of days. And Chief Justice Spence, they pick me up one day and bring me before him. Well, Spence knew me from reputation. He said, well, he lives out over in that wood area, in the woods there, in that lean-to. He says, yeah, that's him. Don't bring him in here. Get him out of here. Don't lock him up. I ain't going to feed him. We ain't going to house this drunk. Get him out of here. Don't pick him. Don't give him tickets. He ain't going to pay him. Just make sure he don't bother too many people. If he gets too out of hand, then we'll lock him up. But I didn't bother nobody but just hustle you for a nickel, dime, buck here, whatever. I was nice about it. That's why people didn't complain, because I had a charisma. So, and I had that way about me. But then I started getting the sickness started getting worse and worse and worse. So I'm going down Main Street one day, and I wasn't that drunk yet. And I fell out. My body just refused to work anymore. They rushed me to Washington Hospital, and they said, Floyd, there's a place in Canonsburg. It's a personal care home. And they got a bed for you. You're going to die here in a little while because your body, everything's shutting down at once. So why don't you let us take us up there? The doctors at least can make it comfortable for you. And I said, okay. So they take me up to this personal care home in Canonsburg. The government was picking up the tab. I don't know how they did that. They got the government to pay for it, which is pretty cool, because I didn't have no money. The government says, all right, we'll pay for you guys to work with them. They went through welfare somehow, and they got this all set up. Now, I'm in this personal care home, but I ain't stopping the drinking. I ain't doing that. I found out where the bars were, and they got one bar that opens up at 7 o'clock in the morning, and that was it, north of Bain. And I'd walk there in the morning from Canonsburg to get that drink. And I kept drinking. I kept hustling. And when I was able to, I'd paint something, because I was a painter. Once in a while in my life, I could paint. And I get a few dollars and I get drunk. And well, the nurses at this personal care home called the owner and said, Floyd's drunk every night he comes in here. What are we going to do? We can't do this. The owner was about money. He said, he's getting $1,000 a month from the government to keep me. He ain't throwing that out the window. Says, does Floyd cause any trouble when he comes in? No, leave him alone. He ain't going to be with us that much longer anyway. They said, okay. So they left me alone. I kept doing what I did. And I fell out one night there in the personal care home. They rushed me to the hospital, and they had to operate that night. They cut me. And I'm laying there in the recovery room at Canonsburg Hospital, and a surgeon from Allegheny General walked through. He picked up my chart, looked at it, looked at me, and he told the surgeon, says, transfer him to Allegheny General right now. So they sent me to Allegheny General, and for the next year, I had 6 operations. They removed the lung. They took so many feet of my intestines. They took that growth by my bladder away. They were giving me medicine for my cirrhosis and my pancreatitis. And I weighed 95 pounds, tops. And I'm laying there, and I got all these tubes stuck in me, and I got tubes stuck in there to feed me with, and tubes in my nose, and tubes in my butt. And I'm laying there, and they just finished taking a lung. And the doctor's telling a guy from AA, because you know what? The guys from AA were the only guys who would come to see me. And they were from Canonsburg. They'd drive all the way to Pittsburgh and sit in my room and talk to me. And I didn't even hear them. You know, if you don't drink, Floyd, you don't get drunk. What a awakening. No shit, Charlie Brown. You know, it don't have to be like this no more. But I was so cocky, so full of myself. I didn't want, these guys are crazy. Don't drink for 30 days. What, are you out of your mind? But the doctor's talking to this one guy who today is my sponsor, Jim, who's got over 30 years sober. He stuck with me. 10 years he messed with me. Even my last 10 years of my drinking, Jim tried to help me. I call him drunk. He came down to Washington to get me in the streets, and I cussed him out in the middle of the street. He just got out of bed 2 o'clock in the morning, come and get my butt, and I'm saying, you're full of crap, get sober, blah, 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 blah. And he'd go home. He'd tell his wife, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill that guy. His wife would look at him and say, pray for him. Oh, pray for him. He didn't want to hear that crap at this time. He wants to kill somebody. Especially me. The doctor's telling him in that room, he says, does he have family? He says, yeah, from Poconos. He says, you better contact him. I said, why? Because he ain't going to make it. We cut him too many times too close together, and he's not strong enough. He's going to die. He ain't got the fortitude to fight back. I heard this. You know what? I don't care who you are or what you did or who you thought you were. Something like that, you can get humble real quick. Where the rubber meets the road. And I got scared for the first time, and I can't tell you when. I got scared because I said to myself, you know, if everything I ever heard about God is true, I'm in trouble. Because if I die, I thought this life was bad. This is just a kindergarten to where I'm going. And I got to really seriously thinking that way, laying in that hospital bed. Least I want to do is make sure your butt was covered before you check out. So I remember turning my head to the window, and I said, God, I can't get sober. And that still small voice, not verbal, in your heart, speaks to you. Says, I know. Floyd, you're in my way. I heard that just as clear as you said it to me. I heard it. The session they call about alcoholism. God, what he did that day, he took the obsession away. He said, Floyd, you do the footwork. You got to do this. I'm going to take the obsession, the gnawing that drives you to drink, I'm going to take it away. But you got to do the footwork. I spent another month in that hospital healing. Doctors were amazed because they figured he ain't going to last a week. And they sent me back to that personal care home. Now I'm still all tubed up. And I had a visiting nurse coming in every day ministering to me. And ever so slightly, they took this tube out, this tube out, this tube out. And I started eating soup and crackers and stuff like that. And then they started solid food, and eventually, and then when I was able to walk, they had to send me out to rehab while because I couldn't walk because I was in bed too long. So they sent me over to Beverly, and the nurses walk around like this, and then I walked with a walker and then a cane, and then I was able to walk. For a couple of months, they kept me in that rehab, and then took me back to personal care home. My guy became my sponsor. He used to come on Saturday night, him and his wife, carry me to the car, put me in the car, to an AA meeting. And I'd sit there just like we are tonight, listen to some guy tell his story, and I started listening, and something happened to Floyd, because the day I left the hospital, that was my last drink. That was my last cigarette. I quit both of them at the same time. I gave them to God. I started putting on a few pounds. I started being able to motivate better. And then I asked the doctor, can I try to paint a door? And he said, yeah. So I painted this and I painted that and I painted that and I painted this for a neighbor. And I started getting a little money and I was saving enough. I come home from a meeting one night and before you got a phone call from your brother, the lawyer. I said, oh God, somebody died. So I called him. I said, what's up? He says, some guy called me from Omaha, Nebraska, says he's your son. He's trying to find you. Remember that 3-year-old kid I walked away from 20 years earlier? What? Yeah. It's in your ballpark, man. Here. He didn't believe I was sober or trying to get sober. He just knew what I was. He gave me the number. I call it, and it was my son, Chris. Guess what? He's in the program 3 years when he called me. 3 years in recovery. He became an alcoholic himself. He wasn't even around me. He says, I talked to my sponsor, Dad, and he told me that I need to get in touch with you. And all I want to have is a relationship with my father. I hold no animosity towards you. I just want to have a relationship with my father. I said, how'd you find me? He said, Mom told me you were probably dead, but you had a brother who was an attorney. So I looked all the attorneys up in Pennsylvania until I found your brother. That's how he found me. So we started talking on the phone, and I started writing them. And then when I had a little money saved up from painting, I went out to Omaha, and he was married, had a grandchild, and I spent 10 days out there with him. You talk about a trip. I'm sober. I'm holding my grandson. I'm with my son. And I'm trying to figure this out. I don't deserve all this. My sponsor told me, he says, God must think you're worth it or he wouldn't have given it to you. So shut up, don't question him, just accept it as his gift to you. Because you didn't take a drink today, dummy. So I come back here to Canonsburg, and I'm getting well, and I'm going to the surgeon, and every once a month I go down to Pittsburgh, and they want to check me out, and they're standing there like this. I go in the room one day, and there's a bunch of doctors around there, and they're going like this, you ain't supposed to be here. And I said, what do you mean, you're supposed to be dead? I said, oh, sorry to disappoint you. Right? There's nothing wrong with the liver. The liver's fine. The kidneys are fine. Everything's fine. How you breathing? Fine. One lung. You know? They said, get out of here. You make us go back to medical school. And I haven't had a problem physically since. I weigh 190 pounds standing here today. I can afford these now because I paint now, and I make pretty good money in it. I try to give back to what was so freely given me. I get a lot of calls through 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Some drunk wanting to talk to me. I go, oh, God. I know my sponsor went through now. Standing there saying, yeah, boy. Yeah, I know. I know what I put my poor sponsor through. And my son came out and he spent 10 days with me. Then he came out here a couple of months ago and led for me. I chaired the meeting in my home group, and he was my lead. Tell me there ain't no God. Tell me. And when he spoke, I said, boy, that apple didn't far fall from the tree. Because he looks like me, poor guy. And my grandson, to have the relationship I do now, he's divorced because his wife was an addict. She went back to using. She wouldn't get clean. He tried to work with her. She wouldn't do it, so he had to get out for the baby's sake. So he went to court, got total custody, and it's just him and the baby. Grandma helps, which is a blessing. She can't believe me. She don't believe this happened to me. But he wanted to meet his side of the family, my brothers and sisters. They invited me home. I went to see my brother's got a mansion. He's got 100 lawyers working for him now. He's got a law firm. He's got offices in Scranton, Wilkesboro, Stroudsburg. He's got offices, 100 attorneys. I go up there and I'm sitting by his pool. Wow, get this, a pool. I'm sitting there like I'm somebody now. And I'm with my family and my sisters and my brothers and my nephews and nieces. They're calling me Uncle Floyd. God gave that back to me. But you know what I really look at? The miracle was you guys. Hey. When I was sick and dying, and the epitome of hell in the beginning, sitting there in those chairs, you loved me back to health. That's what you did. You didn't care what I was. You didn't care I laid in the gutter, eating out of dumpsters, brushing maggots off of chicken bones and eating to survive. You didn't care about that. You loved me back. And that's what you did. AA did that for me. Put me in the cradle of its arms and loved me back to health and made me feel like I was worth something. I never thought I was worth anything, but you made me feel you're worth something, Floyd. And I never realized that. My brothers and sisters, we have a ball now. I go up there now. I'm going up after the conference. I'm going up there to spend some time. And we have a ball. Me and my brothers go hiking. And we talk about this. And my brother told me one time he heard me lead in my hometown. My brother, lawyer, sitting right there. He get up afterwards, tears in his eyes. He says, if I'd known it was that bad, you should have taught. I said, nah. It happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. Because if you had known and you tried to do any more than you already did, I would have abused you. I would have took everything you had, and today you'd hate me. It happened exactly the way it was supposed to happen. I had to suffer like that so I could get to where I am now. I'm one of them hard cases that had to walk through the valley of the shadow of death to get to the other end. I owe my life. You guys love me back. And you haven't stopped. You keep getting around me and encouraging me and telling me when. And I sponsor guys. I sponsor guys. That one. I can tell somebody else what to do. That's a gas right there. And they have them listen. That's even a bigger one. That's my life in a nutshell. And God's grace is beyond measure. I'm not a holy roller. But you know what? I go to a church. I started going back to church. This November, I'm going to be ordained into a deaconship. I'm going to be a deacon in my church. Can you imagine that? A Skid Row bum like me going to be Deacon Floyd. Deacon Floyd. That's what they're going to. And they're going to make me deacon of the youth. Everybody got an assignment. I'm going to be deacon of the youth. And there's 300 youth in my church. They're going to entrust their teenagers to this drunk. And I let them know. The ones that I have problems, I tell them what's waiting for them. Let me tell you what's down there. Because I've already been there. I know what's there. That's about all I want to share today. But I'd like to close my lead with this, if you don't mind. Last night I dreamed I passed away and left this world behind. I started down that lonely road, my destiny to find. I came to the crossroads where a bright sign to tell, Turn left to heaven, my friend, or go right to hell. I didn't have to study long. I knew the path to take. So I started down that beaten road that leads to Satan's place. Satan met me at the gate. What's your name, my friend? I'm just Floyd, who came to a sad, sad end. Satan went through his files and said, you made a mistake, I fear. You're listed as an alcoholic. We don't want you here. So I went back to where I came, in that bright sign I did see, and I turned left to heaven, as happy as I could be. St. Peter was waiting at the gate, his files in his hand, and I knew it wouldn't be too long till I met the main man. Come, Floyd, my friend, for you I have a new birth. You're listed as an alcoholic. You've had your hell on earth. With a heart full of joy I entered in, and what to my surprise to see, my old buddy Bill and Cliff, and a friend named Lee. There was Kathy, Tanya, and Lorraine, and a gal named Belle, and I was sure happy. I thought they went to hell. You can learn something from my trip. You have a place in heaven if you try hard not to slip. If someone tempts you with a drink when you're not feeling well, you just tell them, loved ones, you're going to heaven. You already been to hell. Thank you.